Imagine the scene. A booktuber for the first time co-hosts a readathon for a month. Normally she makes maybe one video in 10 days. Suddenly she's making 2 in 3 days. She relaxes for a moment to look at the other parts of booktube and finds that she's been tagged by Gavin Varlet of Genre Books on Shakespeare Journey Tag. Welcome to Shakespeare. Maybe this is something you can do to also be part of Framed in September, which I'm working on, which is to create a shake for Shakespeare. What would it taste like? Have a go. So this tag, maybe it'll be a short tag. All will be well. No. 12 questions. 12. In comparison to that, Framed in September has got 1 question and a suggestion to enjoy a piece of art, and then a third which is completely optional. I'm just saying. Draw your own conclusions. So, Gavin Varlet, the quality of my mercy is strained. It is very strained. However, let's give it a go. Let's see how quickly I can do this. Answer the questions and move on. Okay. First question, reading Shakespeare First Memory. I went to a school that lived and breathed Shakespeare. Every year the annual school play was a Shakespeare play. There was no need to ask what will it be, just which Shakespeare play will it be. And it was done in a style and representation that was not Shakespearian. This is before Baz Luhrman. Way before Baz Luhrman. So I think the most outrageous we did was Caesar was performed as a Western. I myself took part in a production which was Two Gentlemen of Verona, done in 1920 style, and I was a flapper chorus girl. And the reason for that is, of course, I auditioned for a speaking part. But I was so very, very young that I thought the important thing to do was to get the words exactly right. So picture somebody standing on a stage, very still, frozen with fear, and trying to remember words with a contorted face and then wondering why they don't get the leading romantic female role part. How much more we know now than we did then. Okay, let's have a little bit of my shake timbre. First of all, Gavin Varlet has done a fantastic video. You should go and see it, because he actually stands outside the reconstructed Globe Theatre, and then to beat that he goes to the original site of a theatre in which Shakespeare acted. So it's just brilliant. You must go see. The other thing I recommend completely, and if you're on my community, if you're following me, you will already have received this message this week, that there is a brilliant BBC series about Shakespeare, the Rise of the Genius, which is, I immediately quibble with the thing of the genius, because it's just a loaded term. But anyway, it's a brilliant 3-parter. Each part is 1 hour, and they do reenactments in costume of Shakespeare coming to London and the times, the political times they acted in. And it's very useful for understanding what may have motivated him to write the plays. In particular, of course, you have to be aware that a lot of the plays are about royalty, and he was performing for royalty. And what would you say as you were looking into the eyes of Elizabeth I? Would it perhaps be in your mind when you're writing the original script? Tudors? Okay. I don't know how they would have taken jokes about royalty, but I wouldn't have tried them with it. Let's see, what have we got here? My wee notes. First, back to the tags. First question, Shakespeare, I think the first play we read, and we read it in class as well, of course, not just the school plays, was about Macbeth. And the school teacher was very tall. She must have been about 5'10", and she, at school in those times, you had to wear your BA gown, which was this big black kind of one you'd wear for graduation. And so she wore it. She strode around the class, and not only was she very tall, she wore at least 4-inch heels, extremely tall heels, and she was tall and she was slim. And it was like this, the general overall effect was of this sort of big bird, a big sort of rook, like being taught English literature by Poe's Raven, except that she did have a sense of humour and she was wonderful, total character. And so we did Macbeth, the Scottish play. And I actually lived near Calder. One of the titles given to Macbeth is to be Thane of Calder, and I actually ended up living near Calder. I visited Calder Castle. I totally recommend it on your tourist route. It had a gypsy caravan outside, which I could never quite understand, but like an old Romany one, really beautiful. I don't know if it was like a playhouse for the kids when they were small or something, or what, or just a kind of feature you would put in your garden. The building itself is beautiful, the gardens were lovely, and I do remember of the building that one room, I think it was a bedroom, had tapestry that covered a whole wall, if not a wall and a half. And I suddenly realised that, and this was stone walls, and I suddenly realised that tapestries in those days were really kind of draft excluders, really, as well as beautiful. And also the size of the living room and the size of the flower arrangement, because there was one you could hardly get your arms around, and that's because the living room was the size of 3 very large living rooms someone else might have, and then imagine all those walls knocked down in between. So that's my memory of Calder Castle. Also, they had a fantastic coffee shop just outside the grounds called Village Green, I think, from memory. One of my very favourite coffee shops, which then changed ownership and became something slightly different. Tears has question 2. Has a Shakespeare company got me to tears? No. But Judi Dench speaking Shakespeare sonnets is just deeply amazing, and she can do it just like that, and I've seen her do it a couple of times in TV. One of them was during a chat show with can't remember his name, on we put it in the footnotes for this, but she just suddenly started. I think it was, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, thou art more temperate, but just her words, fabulous. Right, 3 people who've helped me in the Shakespeare journey. Don't really know. Probably the English teacher who had the idea to have Shakespeare in the school, and doing it in all different styles, I suppose. Question 4, favourite book or film about Shakespeare? Right. No Bed for Bacon. Want to just flag this up again. I flag it all the time. It's not so well known. It was done at the end of World War II, and things were by no means settled at that point. In fact, the original paper that was going to be printing this book was lost to a bomb in London. So it was an act of courage to make this. Also, it's a humorous thing. It's about Shakespeare, and it was written years before Shakespeare in Love, done by Tom Stoppard. But that was just phenomenal. And in terms of plays, or rather TV and films, Baz Luhrmann's 1996 film William Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, with Baz Luhrmann and Claire Danes in the title roles, is fantastic. It's the actual language, the Shakespearean language, but transported and updated into like gang warfare in America, where 2 families are like 2 gangs at war. So, and there's a stunning scene in it. Excuse me. which is where Leonardo DiCaprio first sees Juliet. She first sees him. And there's a tank of water in between with these beautifully coloured swimming fish in it. It's all very, very exotic. And they sort of glimpse each other through this wall of water and iridescent colour. And it's astonishing and beautiful. The music is perfect as well. It's all about water. And if you look closely at it again, the second or third viewing, you'll probably notice that down the end of the corridor from where Leonardo DiCaprio is, in the very, very back of the shot, is a gentleman standing with his back to us, looking as if he is using a urinal. So there's another bit of water. Just keeping it real. I also love the church scene at the end. It's completely over the top. It has the contents of a candle maker's shop plus a neon sign maker's shop. But it's fantastic, unforgettable, well worth seeing. And more unconventionally, because I do like the unconventional, is a film I want to really deeply suggest you see, and it's called Theatre of Blood, and it has Vincent Price in it. And the story is that Vincent Price has been this very, very bad Shakespearean actor who's been panned by critics all his life, and he dramatically commits suicide in a great big leap into the Thames or something like that. And then 2 years later, all the critics that panned him start to die in very mysterious, horrendous circumstances, which are very bizarre, and they are like odd deaths that happen in Shakespeare. So if you actually have read all the plays of Shakespeare, well, you're going to know what they're referring to and get even more out of it. It's so over the top, it's not at all scary. Excuse me. And it's well worth watching. Just completely a ham film about a ham actor, basically. It's but just enjoy it. Right. It's verging on comedy. Now, question 5, character in Shakespeare like me, I have no idea. Question 6, play to see in the theatre. Well, actually, during lockdown, funnily enough, I had 2 of the best Shakespeare viewing experiences in my life. And that was the Royal Shakespeare Company made some of their performances viewable. And I saw Twelfth Night with Tamsin Greig as Malvolio, which is a part normally played by a male actor. And that was fantastic. And there was a tremendous set. It was a revolving set, and then there was this big steps that went up and in the middle, and it would revolve round, and there would be another room on the other side of the stairs, and it was just brilliant for quick scenery changes. Tamsin was just fantastic, of course. And also they performed Midsummer Night's Dream, and they seemed to do it in a very large auditorium or some version, and they had room for having the flying stuff so that they could, the apparatus, so that they could do all the flying of the fairies and so forth, and it was beautifully done. Really, really good. Question 7, an actor to play Hamlet. This has been done, and I'll try and insert a link to a clip where different people come on and try performing the part of Hamlet. And just when you think it can't get any better, it does. Okay, question 8. Favourite speech. I'm not going to inflict that on your ears, but I'm going to give a link to our fantastic favourite speech done by a favourite person, and that is Peter Sellers playing Richard III in a mashup with the Beatles song. It has been a hard day's night, and don't miss it. You must see. And in fact, when I was driving my kids to primary school, we had it as part of the soundtrack for the mix of music going to school, and my kids learned it. So I don't know if they ever failed Shakespeare exams, but they knew that part. We could all say it together in the car as we were driving to or from school. 9, which plays are intimidating? I don't let them intimidate me, I just don't read them. Yesterday, actually, I was in a charity shop and I had the complete works of Shakespeare in my hands, and it wasn't that big. But it wasn't that big because it was 4 columns, 2 columns per page. Just simply what the speeches were. And I looked at it and thought, okay, it's condensed, but is it readable? Does it invite me to read it? And I decided no. It was just crushed slightly. Although they had put in some colourful ink in red, so here and there, and that helped a little bit. Right, where are we? Tips for the intimidated. See it acted. See the plays. They made not much sense until I started to see clips of it being acted either in films or possibly, on stage as well. Question 11. Favourite Shakespeare play? Probably The Twelfth Night, simply from being part of the school production as a prompter and being off to one side and seeing things happening as they did. And there was a particular guy who acted the part of Sir Toby Belch, and he is this Falstaffian character who kind of comes in and he's all full of ideas for getting partying and different things, and he has to enter every single night laughing heartily and then go into his speech. And the particular actor, what had happened was he had a friend in the cast who would always put a funny picture up on the mirror he would use for getting ready, preparing to do his part. And one particular time he showed us what it happened to be that night, and it was one of those birthday card pictures you get of a baby's face looking startled and saying something completely opposite. And so he would look at this and then he could just laugh and go into the play laughing. So I love that. There's a niceness about being part of the behind the scenes. You don't have the pressure to perform, but you're in on it and you're part of encouraging those who are performing. Right, question 12. Tag other booktubers. Nay, nay, and thrice nay. Verily, they should be toiling over the textbooks of Framed in September. I shall not distract them, nor take their eyes from th'art. Thou art mistaken to assume that I would stretch forth my hand to this. Nay, nay, out, brief, exit pursued by